graders, so your homework tonight, we're talking at the top about equivalent fractions, kind of like we did in class today. Fractions that equal the same thing. Remember that whole identity property. If we multiply it by 1, we get the same thing back. So we're going to just be multiplying by 1 today. The first part asks you to shade in 1/2. And if you shade in 1/2, and you look at all the little cubes in between, so we know that's half, but if we count all the little pieces in between, we've colored in 4 of them, so that would be the same as 4/8. Our next one, 3/4. We're going to find our spot over here, and you can see these lines. 3/4, we can color in 3/4 of them, and if we count all the little squares that were on there, rectangles actually, it would be 12 out of 16. So 12/16 is the same as 3/4. Next one, we're looking for a couple things that are equal to 2/8. If you notice, this is already broken into 4 equal parts, and we wanted to also do 2/8. So we needed to fill in one of these for 1/4. And then 2/8 is already done for us, of course. And then another way of looking at it is 4/16. They're all equivalent. Alright, so 5th graders, just like we did this afternoon, we're adding straight across. Remember, our numerator is the one that we add. Our denominator is going to stay the same. 1 plus 3 is going to equal 4. Our denominator will stay the same, so we've got 4/4, which is exactly the same as 1. So when it comes to shading them in, you can shade in 4 little pieces out of 4, or you can just shade in the whole thing. Either way, you're doing the same thing. They're equivalent. The next one, now we've got unlike denominators, and just like we talked about in class where you needed to find that least common multiple, I'm going to find a little scratch piece of paper over here when we wanted our least common multiple. And we want the least common multiple between those two denominators. Our denominators are 2 and 8. Most kids don't need to do this after a while, but our least common multiple, I bet you're thinking already, is going to be 8. So since one of them is already 8, we're not going to change 2/8 at all, but we are going to change 1/2. So 1/2, something that we can multiply it by, that will equal 8 on our denominator. And we know it's 4. 2 times 4 is 8. And remember, if we do it on the bottom, we need to do it on the top. Otherwise, we don't have 1, and we're not following that identity property rule anymore. So we've got 1 times 4 is 4. So 4/8 instead of 1/2. So 4/8 plus 2/8. 4 plus 2 is 6. And our denominator stays the same, so we've got 6/8 for that one. And you can color in parts of it. So let's color in our 4/8. Why are they I think they're broken up into 8s already for us, it looks like. So color in 4. Here's your 4/8. And then on top of that, you can add your 2/8. Change colors here. And when we're done, if we count them all up, we should have 6/8. Our next one, same thing. We have unlike denominators. So we're going to look for a common denominator between 2 and 4. We can go through that least common multiple thing again if we want to, or some of you might already be seeing that our least common multiple is going to be 4. So if we have 1/2, what do we need to multiply 1/2 by to equal 4 in our denominator? 2 times 2 is 4, and if we're going to follow that rule, we have to do the top number the same, so we're actually multiplying by 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. So 2/4 plus 1/4. I'm just going to scratch that out. 2/4 plus 3/4 is going to equal 5/4. And I bet if you're looking at that, you're thinking, hey, that's an improper fraction. Let's go ahead and color the picture, and we'll see if we can come up with a proper fraction. Some of you already remember how to divide. 5 divided by 4, and you'll get it that way, but we'll do it. We'll follow the rules here. Looks like these are broken up into 8s for us. So we want to, they're broken up into 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is broken up into 8s. I'm surprised that they chose 8s. Let's think of it as 4ths. Here we go. Oh, I see. Here's our 4ths. Did I get it right? Yep, every 2. smart board's giving it a funky little wrinkle in there. So 2/4. There's 1/4. There's 2/4. And then we're going to add 3/4. So we'll switch colors. There's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. And if you look, you can see that you've already filled in one hole and you had an extra 1 out of 4. So 1 and 1/4. Or we could do 5 divided by 4 equals 1, and then 1 remainder, so 1/4. 1 and 1/4. Nice job. Next one, we've got Joe is going to bake a cake. He added 3/4 of a cup of white sugar and 3/8 of a cup of brown sugar. How much sugar did he use in all? We need to add together. We have the unlike denominators, looking at 4 and 8, finding the least common multiple. We'll go with 8. Since 3/8 is already done, we'll just leave it. And since we're adding, I can move this first if I want to. 3/8 plus, and then we need to change our 3/4 to something different. 3/4. We're going to multiply it by something that actually equals 1, and we want it to equal something over 8. 4 times 2 is 8. And if we do it to the bottom, we need to do it to the top. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4/8 is going to equal the same thing. I think that was a 3/8. Something's not adding up right. I think my fat marker's not working so well here. I think that was 3 times 2, which is actually 6. So then we have 6/8. So 3/8 plus 6/8. Total them up and we get 9/8. And we've got that improper fraction. We'll go ahead and color it and see if we can come up with a proper fraction. Looks like they're already broken up into 8ths, just like the other ones were. 1, 2, 3/8. And then we've got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 6/8. And we can see already that we've got one whole. And then we've got 1 extra out of 8. So 1 and 1/8 is what we need on that one. Down here, we're just doing our usual division. And 5th graders, you have been telling me how good you're getting at division. I love it. I think if it were me, I would go off on the side. Some of you can probably find room here to squeeze it in. My big marker, I'm not so sure it's going to work here. I know that 3 times 2 is 6 and 3 times 3 is 9, so I'm going to start with a 2. Whoops, I wrote 6. That's not what I want there. I want a 2 there, a 6 here, subtract, and I get a remainder of 2. I bring down the 9, and I've got 29. 3 times 8 is 32. No, well, I don't know why I was thinking 8. I'm thinking 6s here. 3 times 8 is 24. That's what I was thinking. And 3 times 9 is 27. That should probably be what we want. 3 times 9, 27. Oh, this marker is awful on here. And then I subtract. Can't even tell what I have anymore. And then I have another digit to bring down, which is a 1. And I've got, and I know that 3 times 7 is 21. And I would get a remainder of 0. So if you can read that very messy number, that was 297. And I'm going to stop for a minute and I'm going to switch to the dot cam because this is too hard to read. Alright, so we'll finish off here with our dot cam. 6 times 1 is 6. Subtract and you'll get 2. Bring down your 9. Now you've got 29. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. That's too big, so it must be 4. 24. Subtract, you get a remainder of 5. And we bring down our last digit. And we've got 51. 6 times 8 is 48. I'm going to move over to the side. 48 minus 51. And you get a remainder of 3. So our answer was 148. Remainder 3 or 3/6 or 1/2. Any of those would work. I'll leave it like that for now. And then I'm going to move off to the side on these because I'm running into closest. 12 times 4 is 48. Subtract. You get a remainder of 3. So we could call it 3/12, so we could just leave it as remainder 3. And then our last one. 891 divided by 24. 5th graders, make sure you always turn in your work when you're doing long division and things like that. Otherwise, we don't know whether you're using a calculator. And you know, I'll make you redo it if I think it's a calculator. So always show your work. 24, 48, 60. Let's see. All right, let's go with 24 times 3, which equals 72. Subtract.